one of the things I've learned over the past couple of years is you have to go narrow and deep on what you're doing. You can't be the jack of all trades, right? Like when I started to do affiliate marketing, I could have gone into YouTube, I could have gone into Snapchat, I could have tried, Pinterest and all this stuff. But me, I've stuck with Facebook, and
Yeah.
I've just drilled down on one thing, right?
Over 1,700 new millionaires are created every single day in the US alone, and more than double that across the globe. They're people from all walks of life, most of them people just like you and I. So the big question is this: how are so many people who didn't inherit money or have any special advantages overcoming the odds and becoming millionaires? That's the question, and this show will give you the answers. My name is Jeff Lerner, and welcome to Millionaire Secrets. Welcome to another episode of Millionaire Secrets. This is Jeff Lerner, your host. Always thrilled to be here with you. And I'm going to be real honest today. It's between Christmas and New Year's that we're recording this. Things are super chill. I haven't had a lot of distractions today. And I was kind of like, man, I got to do an interview, but I don't know if I'm totally feeling it. And then I saw that it was this guy, Robbie Blanchard, the #1 Clickbank affiliate in the world and creator of Commission Hero. I've seen Robbie's ads around, and I've done affiliate marketing a long time. For comparison, there's over 100,000 Clickbank affiliates, and this guy's #1. There's about 73,000 college football players in the United States. So it's actually more elite to be the #1 Clickbank affiliate in the world than it is to win the Heisman Trophy. That said, Mr. Robbie Blanchard, welcome to Millionaire Secrets.
Wow, what an introduction! I mean, I try to tell people that I'm more elite than these college football players. They don't believe me.
Yeah, does that work for you? Picking up the girls at the bar?
It doesn't work at all. Actually, I think it does the opposite. Actually, to be honest with you, yeah.
Well, I will say I'm at least one person who truly appreciates it. I did affiliate marketing full time from 2009, I guess, end of 2008 to middle of 2012. That was my entire bread and butter. I started an agency after that and took some of those skills and, took them B2B. And obviously now I have an education company, but I know what that means. And that's some baller level credibility right there. So, the inevitable question is like, well, how'd you do it? And we'll get to that. But first I would like to back up. You're up in a small town in Massachusetts.
Yep.
Went to Fitchburg State College, which I'm going to confess I've never heard of.
Okay.
And got a degree in exercise science, got an MBA, opened a gym. I know a thing or two about the gym business. I have some buddies that own gyms. And as I understand it, started using Facebook ads to grow your gym because apparently just opening a gym isn't the same as growing a gym.
No.
And that's kind of what got you into online. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, pretty much, like you said, I started a CrossFit gym, and back in 2011 was when I started it. And, it was okay at first. But like you said, it's, the expression "build it and they will come" is, in my experience, not true. I built it and nobody was showing up. And it wasn't until I got into learning about Facebook ads, literally by chance, I saw people running ads on Facebook, and I said, "Oh, geez, that's kind of interesting. I've never thought about doing that." And at the time, the Facebook didn't really even have an ad platform until just at that time. And so I started to run ads, and that's when really things took off for me. And it was because I knew that I was a really good trainer. I knew I could get people in shape. And getting a degree in exercise science and everything, they teach you how to get people in shape and nutrition and strength training. But the one thing they never taught you how to do was how to get people in the door.
Yeah.
And so that's really where that was the missing piece for me. So, learning the ads, running the stuff, that literally changed my gym and turned it from, on the verge of not being open anymore to thriving. And then it literally changed my life forever, to be where I am today. It's all because of Facebook ads, honestly.
Yeah. So, and it's funny you say that. I mean, because that's not unique to exercise science. I have a lot of different types of people on the show, but a fair number of people that I've had on the show, they kind of have that same story where like, I mean, the other day I had a lady that does real estate, lead generation and coaching. I had a guy a few weeks ago that does lead generation and coaching for healthcare, doctors and chiropractors and, I had a guy on the show that builds sales funnels for attorneys, like all these specialized trades and skills. You go to school and they just kind of leave out the part where it's like, oh, here's how you actually go make a business out of this, which is silly, but I'll say I'm kind of grateful for it because that's a big part of why Entre Institute, is needed in the market. You have all these people that don't understand how to market in the digital landscape. So tell me then, let's put a fine point on it because hopefully we can spark somebody listening to be like, ooh, this is the episode that finally got me to go, yes, I need to learn how to do this stuff so that I can get off the hamster wheel of life. What were as much numbers as you're comfortable sharing? What did it look like before Facebook ads and then after Facebook ads for your gym?
Oh my gosh. I mean, well, just to put it this way, I mean, before I was running Facebook ads, before I really knew anything about marketing, there was months literally, Jeff, where I literally had to decide, hey, do I want to pay my groceries or do I want to pay like the rent for my gym? Or literally, I remember times walking to the mailbox and just like, literally just my heart racing, being like, man, are there gonna be bills in that mailbox? Because if there are, that's gonna be really bad, because I would run out of money before I ran out of month.
Yeah.
That was a bad situation. And obviously after Facebook, to just give you an idea, we went from 1,000 square foot space with my gym to then we upgraded to a 10,000 square foot space just because of the amount of people we had. And we ended up having, at the time we had about 400, 500 members, at a CrossFit gym at, 150, 200 bucks a person per month. So it ended up, being a very, very profitable business after a while, but it didn't start that way.
Yeah. I know one of my best friends who's in real estate now, he fought the good fight for years with a gym and he just could never turn that corner. I know multiple people here in town where I live in St. George that have closed gyms. It's a hard business to crack the marketing. I'm sure the Hormozis who have, essentially that's their business is kind of the gym consulting angle, but that's not what you do. You've gone full bore into affiliate marketing, right?
100%. Yeah. So it just kind of happened by chance, once again, because I was, I was doing the gym thing and I started to turn things around and have success online or with my gym, which was a big thing for me. And it's funny because a couple of years prior to that, probably about 4 years prior to really have my success in my gym, I had learned about affiliate marketing. I learned about Clickbank and everything. And I actually was on the verge of joining a mastermind trying to figure out how to do it, but I couldn't do both at the same time. I was like, I got to either build my gym up or I got to do the online. I couldn't do both at the same time. So I decided to go the gym route. Started to have success with the gym, obviously turned things around. And then I said, okay, I still got this itch I want to scratch and I want to learn how to do affiliate marketing. And I ended up jumping into a mastermind. And that's where I ended up learning about Clickbank and affiliate marketing and starting your online business. And but I didn't start out as an affiliate. I actually started out with my own product on Clickbank. And it was a CrossFit product. It was called Dominate Your Double Unders. I don't know if you ever heard of a double under, but basically it's a CrossFit movement. It's two swings per jump with a jump rope. And so I saw people in my gym were struggling with it. And I said, hey, if I can put together a program showing people how to do it, I'm going to make tons of money, right? That was kind of my thought process. Didn't end up happening that way. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I'll never forget, Jeff. I would join the mastermind. I ended up going to the event. I remember pitching my product to these people that were in the mastermind who had these big email lists and asking them to promote my product as an affiliate, and nobody would promote it. And the reason why they wouldn't promote it is because everybody had a big list, but they were geared towards weight loss. They weren't geared towards a skill-based program like I had. So I got super frustrated. And that's when I realized, hey, maybe I should try running Facebook ads because it worked for my gym. Maybe it could work for my product online. I ran ads, and then, within, a couple of days, I had a couple, literally like 3 to 5 sales right off the bat. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty amazing. And so that got me down that rabbit hole of affiliate marketing. Yeah.
Cool. You know Thomas McMahon at Clickbank?
I do. Yeah, I know Thomas very well. Yep.
Yeah, I had him on the show actually several months ago as well. He's a friend of mine.
Nice.
I got to know him at an event earlier this year, Webinar Con. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
Well, you were there. I was there too. Nice.
Oh, all right. Yeah. So small world. Yeah. I mean, actually that's a telling point. Like, it's so funny, this digital marketing, I don't know if it's an industry, that probably doesn't, define it very well, but digital marketing skill set, right?
Mm-hmm.
And practitioners thereof. It's really such a, I don't know if simple is the word, but it's such a readily accessible skill set. Like anybody can do it, You and I have both taught tens of thousands of people about it, but yet the number of people that make like millions and millions of dollars. I mean, that Webinar Con, that was a who's who, right? There were, 150 guys in the room that had like $3 billion in funnels between them or something crazy. And it is kind of a small world that you and I would happen to have been at that same event. And it's interesting. I mean, you have a big training program, Commission Hero. You teach affiliate. Is that primarily what you teach in Commission Hero, is affiliate marketing?
Yeah, that's it. That's all we teach is people how to do affiliate marketing using Facebook ads. Yep.
Okay. And what do you see as kind of the differentiator between, let's call it I don't know your numbers and it's none of my business, but let's call it the relative few that just absolutely crush it.
Yeah.
And the vast majority who get mediocre to no results. What do you think is the difference?
I think there's a couple differences. I think that one of the biggest differences that I realized, when I put together Commission Hero, and one of the things I've learned over the past couple of years is you have to go narrow and deep on what you're doing. You can't be the jack of all trades, right? Like when I started to do affiliate marketing, I could have gone into YouTube, I could have gone into Snapchat, I could have tried, Pinterest and all that stuff. But me, I've stuck with Facebook.
Yeah.
And I've just drilled down on one thing, right? And then the other thing too is like when it comes to offers that you promote, people always say, Robbie, you've made millions of dollars being as an affiliate. Like, how many offers do you promote at one time? And I say one. I promote one offer at a time. I focus on one traffic source at a time, and I just keep on doing that until I'm successful at it. And so that's really what I teach inside of in the course as well. And we have students that are just absolutely killing it because they were trying all these different things before, email marketing and e-commerce and drop shipping, and then finally they just if they just go narrow and deep and focus on one thing and be really good at that thing, you have more success. And I really think too, and you probably would agree, Jeff, that the simpler something is, I think the more money you can make from it. I think that's the more complicated something is, the harder it is to get it to scale and get it to make sense. Like if you can't write it down on a napkin, it's probably not going to be a scalable thing.
I think Warren Buffett agrees with you. He refuses to invest in businesses that he doesn't understand and can't very simply explain to a teenager from what I hear. My buddy Warren, I call him up. That's what he told me. Right? So, yeah.
WB, right?
But yeah, man. So, and let me just say, anybody in my universe, any of my students at Entre Institute who are listening to this episode, rewind the last 2 minutes and listen to what Robbie just said again. Narrow and deep, because, it's the truth. I was watching I'm sure Valuetainment, the Patrick Bet-David's YouTube channel. I saw this great video yesterday. I was doing research for a course, and he was talking about, should you have multiple streams of income or should you have one stream of income? And he reframed the whole question around, that's not the right question. Mm-hmm. Should you be a generalist or should you be a specialist? Mm-hmm. That's the question, because specialists are the ones who get paid.
Yes.
And so talk a little bit more about that in the context of what you do right now, running an affiliate offers with Facebook ads. What does that really look like to be a specialist? Describe all the ways that getting narrow is, or that you get narrow in that context.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that, first of all, there's all these different ways you can have success with affiliate marketing, right? You can do email marketing, but that in itself has its own set of skills and own, learning curve and everything like that, like doing your emails, having the delivery open rates, all this stuff. Right? Then you have Facebook ads, right? Which is, getting your copy and your ad creatives to convert, getting people to click on your ads, and then having your landing page, which is typically, we do a quiz landing page, which is, 4 to 7 questions, which then leads people into the VSL, which is the offer. And, so that in itself takes some time to master, because you have to get your copy and creatives dialed in. You have to get your landing page. You have to make sure everything's kind of congruent. So you're taking someone down the path to the VSL. it's like it's a whole thing. And if you're not going narrow and deep on that process, and you're trying to do that and try to do email marketing and then trying to do, organic SEO stuff, like all you can do very good at all those things, but you have to pick one of them and stick with it, and that's what I tell people inside of my my course, and anyone I talk to when it comes to wanting to learn how to do affiliate marketing or business in general. Like I'll give you another example, Jeff. Like you mentioned you had an agency. I also had a Facebook ad agency. So I used to run ads for a lot of people for a while, and 7-figure business, did very well and everything. But I was growing Commission Hero. Commission Hero was just getting started. And I'm like, man, I love doing this more. This is more exciting for me. This is what gets me up in the morning. And so, I made the decision that, hey, you know what? I'm going to stop my agency, my 7-figure agency, and I'm just going to go all in on Commission Hero, because for me, I just realized, like, I want to go narrow and deep, and I want to grow this thing, and so I think it's super important that you have to commit to something and just go with it and see it through to the finish line. I think that's so important, and a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people stop. A lot of people, a little bit of resistance, or they get a little bump in the road, or something like that, they give up. But you have to double down on success, and that's what it takes to make it a big win.
Yeah. And I think the industry, and I say the industry, I mean the online business education industry that I would say I'm in, you're in. I mean, that's a pretty big umbrella, right? A lot of people in that industry that have basically had a result, and there's a lot of demand to know how they got the result. And so then they teach how they got the result, right? But a lot of people in that space, forgive the term, but the gurus, right? A lot of them are pretty multidimensional with their marketing. And I'll use myself as an example. I have a podcast. I have a really active YouTube channel. I have a pretty active Facebook page. I'm active on Instagram. I create my own products. I'm writing a book. And people see that. They go, oh, well, that's the success formula. So I need to do that too. And it's like, no, that's not how you started. That's not how I started. You can do that once you have a team. I don't make my own Instagram posts. Somebody's going to rip this conversation that we're having right now, and they're going to go edit it and turn it into little Instagram posts, right? But if it was just me, I would do exactly what you're saying. And I think that's a really important message for everyone to hear is, like, unless you're at the point where you can you have so much profit in your business that you can hire people to make you look multidimensional, don't worry about being multidimensional.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. I think you have to double down on what's working for you too. And I think that the other mistake I see people make is they start to have a little bit of success, or they start to, get to that point. Then they just decide to do something else. And it's like, no, like keep going towards it, like keep pushing, double down on it, and I think that's so important, because you have to, learn. Like this is the other thing I talk to students about too, Jeff, is like, and it kind of goes to your point where, people will say, well, Robbie, like I want to create my own product. And I'm like, well, perfect. Like make a bunch of money in affiliate marketing and then do whatever you want. Like you have to really narrow and deep. And then that way, you have the resources, you have the income coming in, where then you can start to delegate and start to do other tasks. Like you said, like, you wouldn't have had all your channels if it was just you doing everything, right? So, but because you were successful, you focused on one thing, and because of that success, now you're able to delegate that out and then become multidimensional, which is important. So it's actually the opposite of what people think. Like you have to start narrow and deep, and then you go multidimensional.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, look, if you win a basketball game, don't go play baseball.
Yes.
If you win 3 NBA titles and MVPs and Defensive Players of the Year, and your name's Michael Jordan, and you want to go play baseball, okay, great. You've earned the right to go play baseball without diminishing your accomplishments in basketball. Yeah. And even then, you're probably going to realize in a couple of years, you know what? I should go back to basketball because that was my thing, right? I mean, if Michael Jordan couldn't stick with a second thing, I promise none of us need to be getting spread too thin, right?
Exactly.
So, okay, cool. So I want to, again, I said this before the show, I'm resisting my urge to get super nerdy and get into funnel mechanics and, and I am going to actually ask you some questions about how to properly architect affiliate offers with, what are essentially non-affiliate friendly platforms like Facebook. Clearly you have to put something in front of the offer, and we'll get into that. But first, I'd like to just back up a little bit and say, there's not a lot of people in the world that are number one in anything that has over 100,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
That's, and I don't know, don't get a big head here, but that's something special, right? That's a rare, magical, wondrous accomplishment. You're not the only person who went narrow and deep. You're not the only person who probably promoted whatever product you were promoting when you hit that record. You're not the only person that was using Facebook ads. You're not the only person that was really good at Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Why is Robbie Blanchard the number one guy?
Oh man, that's a great question. Well, to be honest, I never set out. It was never a goal for me. I didn't even know it could happen.
Right, right.
I mean, I'll give you a perfect example and kind of how it happened, Jeff. Is so back in 2000, it was December 2018. I was running ads on Facebook, and I woke up one day and everything was shut down. All my accounts shut down, business manager shut down, everything, right? Like dead in the water. And all
when was this about?
This was December, like beginning of December 2018, right?
Okay.
So not too long ago. And so everything was shut down, agency stuff, everything, right? So dead in the water. And then so I scrambled, got everything, figured things out, didn't know what to do or how to do it, but I figured it out. Because I knew that I had to. I had no choice. And so figured it out, got back up and running. It got to be about the third week in December, start running ads again, having more success. It gets to be January comes up, 2019. But the second week into January, I get a message from somebody and they say, "Hey, Robbie, like, congrats, man, you're in third place." And I'm like, "Cool, for what?" And they're like, "Oh, for the Clickbank affiliate contest, And I said, "Oh, wow, I didn't even know about it." Like, so in my head, I said, "Okay, well, I'm in the third place. I might as well try to win it," And the other reason why I decided I wanted to win it is because at the time I had my Commission Hero program done maybe a year ago prior, like to that, right? So I wasn't named Commission Hero or anything like that, but I made a deal with myself and I said, "Listen, like if I win this contest and become number one, that's the only way I'm going to release this program, because you have that. I don't know if you ever go through that, like imposter syndrome, like am I good enough? Do I deserve, that was me. That was me. It's still to this day. And so, and then I ended up winning the contest, became number one. But as far as like what got me, why I became number one. I mean, honestly, I just, I think I'm stubborn, and I think that I have that like chip on my shoulder, and I've always kind of had that underdog mentality of like, man, I just want to keep pushing forward and keep being successful, and I've gotten really good at being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because in order to be number one on something like Clickbank and running affiliate stuff, you got to spend a lot of money per day, and you have to manage your campaigns, and it's not comfortable when you're spending 30, 40, 50 grand a day. That's not a very comfortable feeling, because just one false move can be very bad. So I think for me, just being stubborn, it was one of the big things, but also just wanting success. I mean, I just want to be successful, and I want to just have that success that I didn't have, like, growing up, or, like that sort of thing. I just want to be successful, and I want to just push the envelope and get out of my comfort zone. That's the main thing for me.
Yeah. I mean, it makes me think of the, pretty well-known Eric Thomas statement that when you want success, that as a drowning man wants to breathe, you'll figure it out. Right.
Yeah. And I think honestly, I think the other reason too is because I knew that if I didn't win the Clickbank contest, I wasn't going to release the course. And for me, I think if I've always been someone that I love to help people out, right? The reason why I started my gym in the first place was because, I was a skinny kid growing up, and I used to get pushed in the lockers and had no confidence. Started working out. I felt great, changed my life, right? And I said, geez, if I can do that for myself, I want to help other people have that same experience. And so it was the same kind of idea with when the contest with Clickbank. It's like, hey, I want to be able to be number one, and have the confidence to be like, I'm going to start this and help as many people as possible. So that was another like driving force for me, is being able to have the confidence in myself. And the only way I was going to have that was by winning it and becoming number one, and then being able to in turn give back to other people. Yeah.
It's so funny you talk about that, and I want to camp further on everything you just said, but I'm just going to share briefly this idea of like setting goals, not goals, conditions. Mm-hmm. I don't deserve XYZ until I serve RQP. Those aren't even consecutive letters, but forgive me. really, really qualified people. Until I serve, I don't deserve.
Yeah.
And, for you, until I have demonstrated a certain level of, because I get it, man. When you achieve something like that, yeah, you feel good and blah, blah, but ego is a really, deteriorating piece of joy, right? Like that gets old really quick, but it's what you inspire. It's what you prove is possible for people. And for you to do that, I totally get it. I've been working for a year on developing a piece of software, and total moment of materialistic confession. I want this Porsche so bad, and I will not get it until I have 500 active users on my software.
Yeah.
And I haven't even launched the software yet.
Yeah.
But so every day, but the reason is because I feel like once I have 500 active users on my software, A, I'll have a profitable software company. B, I'll have 500 people that are getting positive value out of something that I've worked really hard to create. Then and only then do I deserve a really fast car.
Yeah.
It's that same kind of thing, man. You kind of gotta, and to be honest, a Porsche, it's a little bit of a tacky motivator. I mean, it's not like, if I'm being honest, but the reality is what gets us is what gets us. We can't choose what gets us. For me, this car is like a thing I want, but I'm going to make sure I deserve it. And it sounds like you're kind of that same kind of guy. So, but to wrap up your whole answer, I mean, I heard grit, I heard stubbornness, I heard underdog, I heard, refuse to lose. I heard all this stuff that's very qualitative and kind of messy. It's not like, well, I have an IQ of 194 and I can, do Facebook ads with one hand. It wasn't like that. Where'd that come from, man? Tell me, did you get your ass kicked a lot as a kid or what?
No, never been in a fight in my life. I tell people I'm a lover, not a fighter. And, it's, but I mean, honestly, it's just kind of, I've always had that kind of chip on my shoulder. I remember I was, grew up playing sports, and I remember, playing basketball. Basketball is one of my favorite sports, even though I'm short and white and can't jump. That's one of my favorite sports. And I could shoot the three, but the thing with me is I had to work my butt off to get on the team. Right. And I remember, just hustling, trying to make it happen, and getting cut. I remember there was a couple of times I got cut or dropped down to JV as opposed to varsity. And so I remember that. I remember I used to run cross country in high school. And I remember my dad was the coach of the cross country team. And he did a whole write up in the paper and didn't mention my name when I was a freshman. And so, so then I ended up working my butt off, and I ended up becoming the number one runner on the team that year, because in my mind, that was in my head all day long. And it's kind of similar. It's almost a similar mentality, obviously not to the extreme of Michael Jordan had, where he literally would make up things in his head this person, this person is I got to get this person, right? So, I kind of have that same type of mentality for me, because I think for me, honestly and truly, growing up, my parents were both teachers. We didn't have a ton of money. It was always, kind of hand-me-downs and stuff like that. And I just, for me, I never want to go back to that. I want to be because I know that I've had success, but success is fleeting and it can go in an instant, and you have to just always keep on pushing forward. And I think that, like the Rock says, the wolf is always scratching on the door, that's how I feel every single day. And it's I wake up, I want to, just keep pushing forward, keep the pedal down, because if I don't, it could all go away. And that's always kind of I don't know if that's irrational or not, but I think most entrepreneurs should have that kind of little switch in their head, because if you get complacent, man, it's not good.
So let's talk about, you said something that for me, I'm like, oh yeah, of course. But to a lot of people, they might've done a little double take when you said $30,000 to $50,000 a day.
Yeah.
But Facebook ad budget. You grew up with teachers for parents. And when you were a kid, a teacher salary was probably roughly what you spend on a day in Facebook ads at that, at least when you were winning that contest. And I know, in the last year, I've scaled my business 2,000% roughly. But in order to do that, there was a 6-month period where every month I was having to spend the entire previous month's revenue and then some just on advertising, on the belief that it would back out in another 30 days and there would be profit, so that I could do it again the next month.
Yeah.
And it was like this rapid staircase over a 6-month period where we grew 1,500%. But every month I was living on the edge.
Yeah.
And I remember, you talk about imposter syndrome. It's one thing to have imposter syndrome and go, oh, I shot a video. Should I upload it?
Yeah.
It's another thing to have imposter syndrome to go, should I increase my budget to $25,000 a day on ads when maybe previously I never made that in a month. And so how did you contend? Was that a struggle for you to kind of get comfortable? I mean, you said you were comfortable being uncomfortable, but that's really uncomfortable for the average person. How did you get comfortable, and was it hard for you?
It was hard at first. I think it's gonna sound funny, but the hardest part for me back in the day was going from like $20 to $40. That was like for some reason in my head, that was the crazy. It was like, I'm like, oh my God, $40. Like that's double 20, you know? But when I got to the point where I was doing, 10,000 or 15,000, like, the numbers don't lie, right? So the numbers are telling me like, Robbie, you should scale up, you should scale up this campaign. And you should spend an extra 5, 10, 20,000 on top of it, right? But in my head, you always have that little, kind of like devil on your shoulder being like, well, what if it breaks? What if it doesn't work? Link goes down, So, but I've been, this is something I teach my students is like, I don't have a gambler's mentality when it comes to my advertising and stuff. I have a very just data-driven mentality. So if the numbers are telling me to do something, I do it. I take my emotion out of it, right? Because if I was emotional, oh my God, I'd be an emotional wreck with some of the stuff that we do. But yeah, you have to be data driven, and you also have to know your numbers too. That's super, super important, because if you don't know your numbers, and like you said, being able to spend more than you're bringing in because you know that you're going to back this out in 3 to 6 months, like that you have to know your numbers in order to be able to do that.
Yeah, it reminds me, I had a guy on the show, Timothy Sykes, who he day traded whatever, he got like $20,000 in bar mitzvah money and turned it into like millions in high school, or, it's a crazy story, but he was saying the same thing about just emotion. Emotion will gut you. And for investors and entrepreneurs, and an entrepreneur is just an investor in themselves. It's the same psychology. You have got to get ruthlessly unemotional to the point where people think there's something wrong with you, and you need to actually be able to flip a different switch when you go home with your wife and kids and like have feeling, right? Or else you're just a robot that's destined to live alone. But it's hard. That's the biggest thing I see a lot of people struggle with. Okay. So how long did it take you from when you started affiliate marketing to get to where you were like, let's call it an elite level affiliate marketer, somebody that had the competence and the confidence to go spend $10,000, $20,000 a day and really know what you were doing? How long did that journey take?
For me, I would say it was probably about a 2-year period, I would say.
What? I thought success was guaranteed in 30 days on the internet. Come on, man.
Yeah, that's what they say. But no, it's 2 years, and I was having success. I was making a couple $100 a day, which at the time I thought was amazing. And then, $1,000. Wow, that's pretty cool. And then it was like, then it kind of gradually went up from there. And then it got to the point where, the contest honestly pushed me because, I'm a competitive person, and and that definitely made me want to push even harder. But yeah, it was probably about 2 years to to really see that success. Prior to that, I mean, honestly, it was probably over a 5-year period, 5-6 year period of really starting the online business to getting where I am today. Which is not a long time. It really is not, but it definitely, when you look back, you're like, oh my God, it's amazing how much has changed. And it just, I love the saying, which is, people overestimate where they'll be in 1 year, but they underestimate where they'll be in 5 years. And I think that's 100% true, because it's hard to look 5 years down the road, right, and see where I am, and connect the dots. Because if you were to tell me like 5 years ago where I'd be where I am today, I'm like, how? I don't even know how you go on that road. But yeah, so it definitely takes time. And the thing is, like, you have to just do something every day. You have to be consistent every day. Like, I see a lot of people like just start and stop, and take 3 months off and then try it again. And it's like, you can't do that. It kind of reminds me of, like, I don't know if you ever driving on the highway and you see all these people that, like, I see people going in the passing lane, then they go in the other lane, and they go in this lane, and they're doing all this work, but I'm staying in one lane. I'm staying in one lane. I just got my foot down, and I end up being ahead of them, right? Even though they were working harder than I was. It just stay in your lane, just keep going forward and stay consistent. That's the key.
Yeah, it's so true. And I love that you said, well, it took me 2 years, but actually it took me 5 years before that, because there's this period of getting to the starting line. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is from my vantage point, at least, I counsel a lot of new entry level entrepreneurs, right? People that are making that pivot in their life. And you have to get ready to even begin. And that getting ready process is different for different people. If you've been a top sales guy at a company and you're used to working your own schedule, living off commissions, betting on yourself, taking risk, closing big deals, like you might be already kind of there to be like, oh, I'm ready to be an entrepreneur. But, other people that have maybe been taking orders for 20 years, it might take them 4 years of therapy just to be ready to place an ad,
Yeah. I think most of the issues people have are right up here. It's your entire mindset. It's having that maturity, having that mindset. Like, to have the success I have now and to be who I was 5 years ago, it just wouldn't happen. Like, because who I was 5 years ago wouldn't be able to, comprehend, handle, and deal with where I am now. Like a lot of issues I have. When you run a business, you run into issues and setbacks and problems. And man, a lot of those things that I have now, if I had them 5 years ago, would have crushed me. And it's like, about building those entrepreneurial muscles is important, because then you can handle more of that weight on your shoulders, which is important. And it takes time. Literally that's one of the keys to success. You just got to takes time, consistency over time. That's it.
The law of the farm, right?
Exactly.
Cool. So let's talk then. Forgive me, let's get into the deep end here on the marketing side. So, I know a lot of people who they say affiliate marketing, they see Facebook ads. That's two very powerful things. Makes sense to smash them together, and they're banned.
Yeah.
No more Facebook account. What do you counsel people? What's your kind of method for doing affiliate marketing, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, Google search? They all kind of have the same rules. They don't like replicated offers. So what do you teach people to do to make that secure?
I tell them that when it comes to shutdowns, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And so you have to just know that and kind of be ready for it. And it's just part of the game. At the end of the day, like, and honestly, like, I talk about this with my students all the time. It's like, it doesn't matter if you have a compliant offer. It doesn't matter if you have a non-compliant offer. There's going to be a time where Facebook's going to shut you down. It's just, like if you go into any Facebook ad buyers group right now, like, everyone is just like, man, I got shut down. I run like, a dog training, it's very simple stuff. But for me, I think that you have to realize that, what we do with Facebook when it comes to, ad accounts or business managers, like, those are disposable assets. At the end of the day, it's, that's how you have to treat them. Everything I do is, I don't do any black hat stuff or anything crazy like that. But even not doing black hat stuff, you run into setbacks and things like that. And so, you can certainly not go that route. But for me, I've been shut down many times. I've had a lot of setbacks, and for me, it's well worth it when you're doing 7 figures and everything like that. And the other thing too is you gotta be prepared. You can't just have one of something, right? You need to have more accounts, more stuff going on. It's just like when you're driving a car, right? You got 4 tires on your car, and eventually you're gonna drive down the road and you're gonna get a flat tire. You're gonna hit a pothole, right? And then guess what? You don't stop driving for the rest of your life. No, you get a new tire on and you keep on going, So for me personally, that's kind of the mentality I've had. Because at the end of the day, like, if you can do it right and have a winning Facebook ad with a high converting offer, it literally can change your life forever. Like, I just had a student in my course that in a 12-month period went from being $50,000 in debt to doing $2.4 million in sales in 12 months with affiliate marketing, with what we teach. And yes, he was shut down. Yes, he had some setbacks, but if you ask him, hey, was it worth it? Yeah, the answer is yes.
Yeah. It's like going to the gym and saying, okay, you're going to work out really hard every day for 5 years, and you're not going to see 1 ounce of progress. You're just going to be pasty, fat, gross. Nothing's going to move until the end of the 5th year. And you're going to wake up that morning and you're going to, I don't know, look like, who's a fit guy? Arnold Schwarzenegger. Or maybe you don't want to be that big, whatever. You're going to look like Brad Pitt in Fight Club. Like, but it's going to take 5 years and you're not going to see any progress. But at the end of the 5th year, you're going to look like Brad Pitt in Fight Club. Would you go to the gym? Of course you would.
Yeah.
right? Of course you would. And I think that there is now, obviously the human body doesn't work that way, but that's kind of how internet marketing tends to feel sometimes. Like, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm banging my head against the wall. I'm grinding. My kids, my brother is making fun of me, telling me I'm wasting all my time and whatever. But like, man, when you hit, like you said, it takes off like a rocket.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. And it's worth it. That's the thing I want everybody to hear is like mastering. There's a window of time, I think, maybe it's 10, 20 years where these skills are like, they're like alchemy. It's like literally turning lead into gold.
Yeah.
You have magical powers. 20 years from now, they're not going to be such magical powers anymore because it's going to be so AI driven. I don't know. We're all going to be living in VR and it's going to be different and whatever, but there's a special time right now. That's why I'm so passionate about this. It's like, I think millions of people can change their lives in the next 10 or 20 years by learning these skills.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, and just 2020 proved it. I mean, I mean, the world has changed. More people are online than ever before. I mean, Harvard University is like, hey, we're going fully online, and we're going to pay, and you're going to pay us full tuition. But that's absolutely. I think the world's going that way, and I think that the quote unquote safe jobs that we had before and stuff aren't as safe anymore. I think like perfect example, Jeff. Like, I still own my CrossFit gym. I mean, thank God I have an online business because my gym's in Massachusetts, and we had to shut down for 3-4 months, and then now we're still operating at like 30-40% capacity, and it's tough. And if I was just a gym owner, there's nothing wrong with that. I wouldn't be as happy as I am today because the online business, I'm thriving. I had my best year ever, and so I think that's just like I can see both sides of the coin because I know what it's like to have a brick and mortar business and everything and be struggling, but then I know what it's like to have a really, really successful online business, and I'll take this any day of the week. Yeah.
Amen to that. So do you teach people? Obviously, I think it's a foregone conclusion. You teach people to put some kind of a bridge page or that create their own proprietary tripwire offer, something in front of the affiliate offer to promote on Facebook, so they're not running the affiliate offer directly on Facebook, right?
Exactly. Yeah, because you can't run direct offers on Facebook. So what we do is typically a quiz, and the way we do it is very simple. It's like a 4-question quiz, and the reason why we have the quiz as our landing page is because people love to take quizzes, and it's very easy to test, especially if you're new to this. It's very easy to come up with 4 questions you can get people to answer, right? And then the other reason why is because we don't sell from the actual ad itself. The purpose of the ad is to create curiosity and to get you to stop scrolling. We never sell from the ad because nobody goes on to Facebook in the morning and says, I'm going to go buy something. I'm going to go on Facebook to buy it, right? But people buy stuff on Facebook. So we do that, send them to the quiz, and by sending them to the landing page, honestly, it's way better than sending them direct to an offer because it's not as abrupt. And by going to that quiz and taking those 4 questions, by the time you take the 4 questions, you've already forgotten that you came from Facebook. So now you're more focused. And now when you go to the offer, and once again, the landing page doesn't sell, you go to the offer does all the selling, which is why it's called the video sales letter. This is selling for you. That's what we do. It's really that boils down just to that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a simple thing. I just as an example for anyone listening to kind of put some, an exhibit in front of you of like, what does that look like? I saw this amazing ad on Facebook, totally played to my ego too. It was like, can you run less than an 8-minute mile? You could save money on your health insurance. Find out about special health insurance offers for fit people. And I'm like, oh, sweet. So I went and it was like, how fast do you run a mile? How many push-ups can you do? How long can you hold your breath? And I don't, whatever the questions were. And do you smoke or something? And then, it connected me to what was probably an affiliate referral link to, who knows, Progressive or whatever. But it was classic, right? And I think that's an example of what you're talking about for anybody that's trying to like put a picture to it. So then with this idea of creating a bridge offer, creating a quiz, and maybe a quiz doesn't deal with this so much because a quiz is pretty innocuous, right? But my experience is a lot of people, you mentioned imposter syndrome. They kind of bump up against it as soon as it's time to like create their own piece of the funnel. It's like they're comfortable placing ads. They're comfortable promoting, pre-existing offers, But then like that little creative piece in between, they're like, well, they freak out. Cause like, well, who am I to create a piece of this flow that was, otherwise built by experts? How do you in general, and maybe the broader question within your whole community, how much do you work on helping people overcome that imposter syndrome? Because I know it's crippling in my world.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, quite a bit. I mean, one of the things we do, I mean, obviously we help them out quite a bit because we give them a lot of landing pages.
Right. Cool.
But as far as, teaching is, and one of the things I teach my students, I think is the opposite of what most people teach is, they'll start with most people will teach like the Facebook ad side of things first, where I'm like, hey, the most important thing you can do when it comes to an offer is watch the VSL, take notes, build out your avatar. Who are they trying to advertise to? Who are they trying to reach? How old is that person? Where do they live? Like, are they married? Are they single? Like, build all that out and have that huge list, which you're building your avatar, then work backwards, then go to your landing page. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to build up my landing page based on that person that I just created with this avatar, right? Then the next step is go ahead and do your ads, right? Because when you do that, everything is going to be congruent because you work backwards, as opposed to coming up with your ad copy first and then being like, all right, this is what I'm going to do for my landing page. And then, but then like the afterthought is the offer where do the opposite. And that makes a huge difference because a lot of people make the mistake of trying to advertise based on how they would buy. And you can't do that because I'm not a 40-year-old woman. I'm not a 50-year-old woman. So I'm going to buy very differently than somebody that's going to purchase that product. So you have to work backwards. Yeah.
Yeah. And for anybody listening that's not familiar with the avatar concept, it basically means kind of like an idealized person to represent your audience. So like you could say, well, I sell sporting goods. So my avatar, his name is Phil. He's a 38-year-old weekend warrior, golfer and basketball player. He makes between $60,000 and $90,000 a year. And it gives you a specific point of reference to angle all your marketing to Phil, knowing that it's going to obviously reach, Phil's not even a real person. It's going to reach a lot of people, but it's just easier. It's like right now, it's a lot easier to have a conversation with one person than with everyone that could be listening, because that doesn't even mean anything. Right. Exactly. So that's the avatar concept we talk about. So what would you say is for people that are maybe looking at like, is affiliate marketing a thing that I should entertain? We hear about the Robbie Blanchards of the world who, and I can name some other names that like people that make just ridiculous amounts of money affiliate marketing, but that's not the norm. What would you say is a normal positive outcome for somebody who's serious and stays committed for, frankly, for years, because that's often what it takes, but somebody who eventually becomes a full-time professional affiliate marketer? What would you say is like a, standard outcome for them income wise?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you asked that because just recently I was actually at the Clickbank headquarters, and what I did was I asked them. I said, hey, listen, like here's a sample size of 1,500 students that are in my course. Like, how much have they made over the past like year and so? And so they took that sample size of 1,500 people, and it was crazy. I mean, the average student made $26,000 in 2020, and then overall it was like $22 million they generated. So that would be probably a more conservative, an extra 26 grand in your pocket per year is not too bad. Obviously you can make way more than that, but no, I think, but the key is you have to, as I tell my students, slow is fast, right? And direction is more important than speed. So you have to really make sure you take your time, build up, understand the concepts, don't make the silly mistakes, and build that foundation first. Because when you build that foundation first and understand everything and then implement, that's when you're going to have way more success. And I also tell my students, like, the hardest thing to get to is that first $1,000 a day, kind of our milestone. Once you get to that first $1,000 a day, like, you put in all that work you put in to get there. Now to get to like 2,000 or 5,000 or 10,000, like, it's way easier because nothing really changes. You're just turning up the volume. So I would say on average that's kind of what I'm seeing my students make. And And that's not a bad thing at all. And I think the other thing that's cool about affiliate marketing too, Jeff, is that I think that's one of the best ways to start online, because you don't have to come up with your own product. You don't have to, with what I do, you don't have to do an email list. You don't have to do your own store. And I mean, you can just literally get up and running and have success and make money. And then you can go and do other stuff if you want to do that too. So for me, that's been the avenue.
And it's kind of the inversion of what you started off by talking about, which is most businesses, your gym business, where you learn all this exercise stuff, but you never learn about lead generation and customer conversions. Affiliate marketing is the inversion of that, where all you have to focus on is lead generation and engineering the offer, really properly setting the offer up so it'll convert. And then everything else is taken care of by the offer creator, right? And that's what I totally agree with you. I think affiliate marketing, in fact, in our company, we sometimes flirt this line between calling it affiliate marketing and really just kind of calling it like digital marketing foundation.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. It's offers, it's funnels, it's ads, it's targeting, it's conversion science, and it's not getting lost in the weeds of actually building out a business.
Yeah.
So no, I'm glad you said that. And the other thing I want to say to people, and I'm curious your thought on this. Like, it's funny because I have a deep love of humanity. I love people, man. I often say I have a condition. I can't even see people as they are anymore. I see people as they could be. So I see this like blinding, glowing light shining off of everyone, right? But then what that leaves me with is kind of this also perpetual disappointment, because people don't necessarily live up to their greatness. And this is what I want people to understand. You hear these numbers, Robbie, and this is no knock on you, but you are the number one affiliate out of 100,000 plus affiliates. You weren't really competing with 100,000 people. Because you'd say, okay, well, who's even really serious about it? Well, wipe out 80,000 of them. Who's working on it every day, doesn't miss a day? Wipe out another 15,000 of them. Who works it, like their life depends on it? Wipe out another 3,000 of them. Who works it? Who's willing to not gamble, but who's willing to invest what it takes to scale to the level that you can get to? Oh, that wipes out another 1,500. Now you're down, I think if my math is right, you're down to like 500 people. Like, you were probably only competing with like 50 guys to really win that contest. And I think when people understand that like the vast majority of people that muddy the statistics, they're not even really in the game. You put yourself in very elite company when you just decide to go all in and do whatever it takes. Do you experience that same dynamic in your community? I love all my students, but I'm not going to pretend they're all in.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I think that, there's definitely there's a spectrum, right? There's the students that are just literally all in, it clicks, they got it. They burn the boats. There's no excuses, nothing. And then, then there's people that make the excuses, right? Like they find all the potholes in the road why it won't work, right? And so, and that always, kind of amazes me, because it's like these two students, student A and student B, they have access to the same information. They have access to the same everything, right? But one of them is super successful. One of them doesn't have success. And I think honestly comes down to just, that grit and having that mentality and having that mindset of wanting to do it, and no matter what, and I think that's that's a big thing. And obviously you want to help as many people as possible, and we've helped a lot of people, but it just comes down to I think at the end of the day, like, you're competing against yourself. Like, as you mentioned, like, maybe I was competing against 500 people. I think I was competing against just one person, me. Right. And
although it did get your attention when you found out you were number 3.
Yeah. and then I had to pep talk myself into making it happen. And I think that's important too. And I think in competition is such an important thing too, because, for me, and I know a lot of my students too, like, they see someone having success and they're like, man, like, son of a bitch, like, that guy's doing it. Like, I can do it, So I think that's the big thing. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, you have to, commit to it. You have to burn the boats. And if you see someone doing it, then there's no reason why you can't do it. You just have to really want it bad,
and be really careful who you learn from.
Yeah.
I would generally say, don't learn from anybody that direct messages you on Facebook or Instagram. Like, literally just don't learn from them, because anybody that you want to learn from isn't hustling business by direct messaging you on Facebook or Instagram.
Correct.
Important thing that needs to be said.
Yes.
Cool, man. Well, geez, we're about at the top of the hour. This has been amazing. It's flown by. Again, let me just again say mad props and respect for what you've achieved. It's incredible. How can people go get deeper into your world, both from a content perspective and also if they're interested in your programs?
Yeah, I mean, if they want to learn more about me, obviously I have a YouTube channel. There's, just search Robbie Blanchard. You can find me on there. I got, my course, Commission Hero, which, we help people have success online. And it's been an awesome journey, and we keep on growing and growing. We're coming up on just over 8,000 students now in just over a year, which is unbelievable. Cool. And yeah, just, the more I can help people out, the better. But yeah, Commission Hero, just go to commissionhero.com. Or you can just, you can follow me on Instagram too, just at Robbie Blanchard. But yeah, I'm everywhere.
Cool. Yeah. We'll grab all those links and put them in the descriptions. I don't always say this, but I'll say it about Robbie. Go follow him. He's vetted. He's legit. He's one of the best in the world at what he does. He gets, not that this is anything he's ever craved, but he gets the Jeff Lerner stamp of approval.
Yes. I came into this, Jeff, hoping that I would get the stamp, and I did.
Yeah. You were number 3 in line for the stamp, and you just topped it.
So, yes. They made.
No, this has been great, man. I'm really grateful that you came on the show. This has been wonderful. Worlds, heed the call. These skills will absolutely revolutionize your life. And this is not just a reaction to COVID thing. It was true before COVID. It's all the more true during COVID. It'll still be true after COVID. You do not have to do anything in this life that you don't want to do to earn money, unless you don't like, well, I don't know. Maybe that's not true. Maybe some people just don't like affiliate marketing, but you don't have to go grind it out at that job that you can't stand. That's my point. Get into Robbie's world. Thank you, Robbie. This has been wonderful. Any parting thoughts?
Yeah, just take action. Just make it happen. I think, at the end of the day, it's a big world. There's so many opportunities, and you just have to go out and get it. If you want it, go get it.
Amen to that. You heard it here. Robbie Blanchard, folks. Thank you again for being a guest on Millionaire Secrets. And thank you to all viewers and listeners out there. Much love, much appreciation. You are the reason we do what we do and the best part of this show. Take care. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you for watching Millionaire Secrets. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and leave us a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you know whenever we release a new episode. Also, if you want to learn the fastest way to become a millionaire in the new economy, click the link in the description below to claim your free copy of my book, The Millionaire Shortcut. And don't forget, Millionaire Secrets is available on all the major podcast platforms as well. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you can listen on the go. Thanks for watching.